Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it is so vital to preserve our natural resources, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And, you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb, because you're listening right now, that you do like what we're doing around here. So subscribe to what we're doing around here. Hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating on your favorite podcast provider. We're pretty much everywhere. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. It's pretty much all good. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram at, well, where else would we be? We're at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got one for the family, as it were. You know, one for all ages, because it's a new movie that has just opened in theaters this past Friday. Is called Ainbo, Spirit of the Amazon, and it is a cute sort of adventure romp in the spirit of something like Frozen or Moana, where this young hero and her spirit guides are embarking on a quest to save their home in the spectacular rainforest, and it's got themes of colonialism, themes of environmentalism, a lot of stuff going on, but a lot of important stuff too. And I mean, I think it's one of those ones that'll fly under the radar, but it will definitely connect with all ages, and it's definitely suitable for all ages because it's an animated film, and it's a lovely one at that. But in advance of the release of this film, we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with one of the voice actors of the film. The one and only Mr. Joe Hernandez, who plays one of the spirit guides in the film and has a lot of fun doing it. But Joe has got an extensive list of screen credits, voice credits to his name, and we talk about the ins and outs of being a voice actor and sort of the highs and the lows and the dream jobs, and we both share a little bit of our love of professional wrestling and just sort of the appreciation for the art form that he's involved in. But if you're anywhere near a theater, if you see it in your listings, go check out Aimbo, Spirit of the Amazon. Bring the young ones, bring the whole family. It's that kind of movie. But first, enjoy our talk with Joe Hernandez, because between you and me, it's a pretty good one. Well, I mean, first off, Joe, just thank you so much for the time today, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, anytime, man. It's always, this is kind of the fun part. It's all fun, right? It's
for sure. It's the entertainment industry, right? It's got to be a little bit fun.
Different level of fun, because, at times you're in the booth, and that is, gosh, if you're not having fun in the booth, then you got to check your pulse. But things like this is all fun too. This is, again, just, enjoy it. Just enjoy it.
Obviously, first off, just congrats on the film, man. It's absolutely adorable. But I guess my first question is because, when it comes to voice acting and voice work, so many people sort of on the outside looking in don't know sort of the path in there. And I'm always kind of curious to hear how sort of you became a voice actor.
Gosh, man, I don't want to say that it's an industry secret, because it's not. But you ask 100 different voice actors that are working in the business, you are going to get 100 different answers.
Really?
And I'm God's honest truth in that. I don't want to say I wasted, but I kind of did the first 2 or 3 years of my career because I didn't have a really good roadmap, I guess I should say. If you want to think in terms of like pursuing something in terms of like an A, B, C, D, E progression, David, I was A, F, Q, R, S. I was
off the alphabet, back on the alphabet. Yeah,
I was all over the place. I was lost. I was kind of spinning my wheels as far as like, how do I get my career off the ground? And then I ended up sitting down for coffee with a friend of mine, Laura Post, who was much more farther along in her career than I was. And so I bought her a cup of coffee, and it's just, please let me pick your brain. What am I doing wrong? How do I get off the ground? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I discovered over the hour or two that we sat down that I was like, oh wait, I'm doing it all wrong. I was backwards. I was spinning my wheels. I was wasting my time, wasting my money. And so by doing that and sitting down with her, I realized, oh, okay. And so, again, you talk about that roadmap, and then I had a better path to success after sitting down with her. But again, this is an industry that nobody really has a set way of making it. There's not a clear cut progression like there would be most other careers. So,
Yeah.
time and money being what they are, you can't afford to waste either one of those.
No, I mean, this is something I'm curious about because I mean, something like in this film, I mean, obviously, as a voice actor, you're not necessarily always going to be playing characters that you can relate to, or maybe you can depending on the material. But it's one of those things. Like I'm always kind of curious. Like, is it easier to act in a booth when you just get to wear your sweats and just sort of focus on the vocals of it without having to sort of focus on the physicality that may be involved?
It depends. I mean, it really depends. Like, how well do you identify with the character? How well do you identify with the script? How well do you identify with the director as well? I mean, all of those things play a factor. And when all of those things, through those three things, kind of work in your favor, it's the best. Like I said, it doesn't even feel like work. It's you have this space where you can go and you could take risks and be goofy and experiment and it's a collaborative process. And so I know enough about myself to know that as an actor, when I'm left to my own devices, I have good habits, but then again, I also have bad habits too. And so sometimes you need a director there that will kind of challenge you and kind of break you of some of those bad habits, and not necessarily in a militant way, but in a way that is nurturing and productive and serves the greater good of what the project is that you're working on. So again, there's a number of things, but again, it all always starts with the source material. You've got to have something that is well written. And if it's not well written, then it's going to be it makes everybody's job that much harder. So again, if you have a great source material to pull from, I mean, it's a breeze. It really is.
No, I mean, I'm curious. How do you prevent the character from changing or evolving? Because, I mean, on one end, it's not like this is a 6 week shoot and you're on set. Like you may be coming in for 2 days here and then 3 days next week and then that kind of thing. How do you sort of keep the line of the character that you're playing?
Again, it's a little bit of trust. It's you have to put your trust in your director to have a sense of the bigger picture, no pun intended, but to know that, like, hey, we're looking at the over arc. And sometimes you are going to want your character to evolve and change over the course of an episode, or a scene, or a picture, or however, whatever the project is. What's the arc? How do they change from where we first see them to where they end up? And so that's where you really need to rely on your director and your writers to kind of come up with something that, like, makes natural sense.
Mm.
Not just change for the sake of change, but change that serves, again, the characters and the story that you're trying to tell.
Are there any challenges to acting in the booth that maybe people from the outside looking in don't necessarily know?
Yes, yes. Working during COVID has been it's been a challenge. Again, going into a studio, an honest to goodness studio, and recording. There's a lot of creature comforts in there that we, for those of us that work from home predominantly now, kind of take for granted. And one of those things is air conditioning. Air conditioning, you don't realize how important air conditioning is until you actually don't have it.
You don't have a fan in the booth, no.
Well, no, but you can't. That's the thing, is you can't have a fan on in the booth when you're
Yeah.
recording. I have a little tiny fan that I turn on in between takes here and there, but it's not like I can have like a full-on AC unit going, because again, it's going to create noise while we're recording. So you kind of do the best that you can with what you have. And so recording from home, especially during the summer months, I mean, my gosh, you're roasting in your own juices. I converted a walk-in closet that you can see here, and it's a great. It serves me very well. It's the acoustics are great. I've never really had any complaints about the audio quality that comes from here. Very, very happy. I've worked on some amazing projects in the time that I've had this booth, but it doesn't have air conditioning. And so I remember the first summer that we were recording for during the pandemic. I was recording Hyrule Warriors, which is kind of a sequel to Zelda Breath of the Wild. And again, we're working, and I'm working on a Nintendo game for my booth, but no air conditioning, so I'm having to like shed layers of clothing, and it's like you're just roasting over the course of a 4-hour session. It's like, gosh, there's, can you possibly hydrate enough? I mean, it's just, and you're just, sweat is just dripping down, your head and all that stuff. And it's kind of funny because my character in that game kind of wears this, he's very limited in his clothing, I guess I should say.
Okay.
And at a certain point, I noticed, oh wait, we're almost wearing the exact same, clothing. We're pretty much down to our skivvies right now. So it's kind of funny how life imitates art that way.
Now, I'm glad you brought up your video game work, because I was going through your list of previous projects and your credits, and there's one thing I've got to ask you about, because
Sure.
It really just sort of popped out.
Sure.
How does one do player chatter for an NBA video game?
They say, hey, Joe, we want you to sound like a basketball player. We want you to sound like a basketball player in the middle of playing an actual basketball game, a pickup game, or, something that's going on, in the arena or anything like that. And so, I've worked on NBA 2K, what is it, 19, 20, 21, 22 is going to be, or 23, the past couple ones. And they've always been great to work with. And I don't know if they know this, but I'm terrible at playing basketball. But apparently I'm good enough to sound like a basketball player, which I guess in the voiceover world, that's all that really matters, right?
When you're, I guess the audition process is fairly similar, but when you're reading for stuff, like how do you just try to use your own voice, or do you have to sort of lean on sort of any sort of gimmicks or tricks that you can do to sort of accentuate the character?
Again, you kind of have to feel it out a little bit, talk to the director, talk to the writers. And when you're auditioning for projects, you can do, sometimes they'll ask for multiple takes, and so you can do something that's a little bit more like naturally grounded to you, just your natural kind of everyday speaking voice. And then you can heighten it up a little bit, put different affectations, put, different dialects, or a little bit more flair to it. And so now you're giving them options. And so, and not just options, but now they can kind of hear your range. So it's like, oh, wait a second, this guy can play more than just, your average run of the mill, 30-year-old. He can do a little bit more than that. You give him different flavors, I guess I should say. And so now they're able to kind of get a sense of, oh, wait, well, maybe we could push this guy, or maybe we can give him this role or something else. And so, you give them options, which, is never a bad thing whenever you're trying to audition for something.
No, I'm curious, for a voice actor, when does the creative payoff happen? Because, again, there's very little audience. Like, you're pretty much sort of locked in your own world, creating this voice, creating this character. Like, when does the payoff happen for you down the road?
Gosh, that's a really good question, and it's really tough because I feel like it's different for everyone. For some people, the creative payoff is doing the session itself.
Mm.
Sometimes you get the satisfaction where it's like, it's nice. It's really great to go in and do a session and just nail it, and you just feel like you're in the zone. I mean, there's really nothing like it. I mean, I don't do drugs, but I imagine it's something probably akin to that, where it's just, oh man, it's a great feeling. It's a high, where it's like, gosh, I'm really firing on all cylinders, and you feel really happy and proud about yourself as an artist. And for other people, it's maybe going to the conventions and meeting the fans up front and signing the autographs and all that, or interacting with people on Twitter. So again, everybody has a slightly different. They might have a different definition of what that creative satisfaction is.
Are there favorite parts down the road, or is it just a question of enjoying the moment when you're in it? Because I mean, I'm a big fan of MFKZ, and when I realized you were the wrestling announcer, man, I geeked out a little bit because that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun too. And again, you want to talk about finding material that you can identify with. I'm a wrestling fan myself. I'm a big wrestling fan. I love me some WWE. I love me some AEW. I geek out on all that stuff, man. And so, when they were like, yeah, we want you to be a wrestling announcer. Absolutely. I knew where I could draw from. I knew, so, you try to keep it as authentic as possible for the project that you're working on. When I was working on WWE 2K, not WWE. I was working on NBA 2K, but again, that's 2K Studios. So I went down to studios, and they were talking about, oh yeah, and we also do WWE 2K, and I was geeking out. I was marking out. I was like, oh, who'd you work with? How was that? And what was that? And like, oh gosh, like please, and I rarely beg for work. I don't want to like lower myself to that level. I don't want to be that guy. But I was like, I made it very clear. If you ever need anybody for any WWE 2K stuff, please, I absolutely will do it. Like,
I'll do crowd noise. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll do whatever. Like, please, I'll take a body slam. Like, I'll let somebody, elbow drop me or something like that. Like, just whatever. Like, I want to be involved in any way I possibly can. So, I mean, it's those are the moments that really fulfill you, is when you are able to work on something that you yourself are a fan of.
Right.
Where you're geeking out, and it's like it's one of those cool things for, I would say, my current generation of voice actors that of our age group, where we grew up in the 80s and the 90s watching a lot of awesome animated shows and playing some great video games. And
Sure.
now we're at the point now where we're able to kind of interact with that media. If they're bringing back a revival of Transformers, or if they're bringing back a revival of Looney Tunes, or an updated, Thundercats, or He-Man, it's like, dude, like you're a kid again. And those are the moments that really just get you. You just geek out. It's surreal. I should be paying them. Like, how is this impossible?
Well, don't tell them
Like,
that. Let's keep that a secret.
Yeah. When I worked on Zelda Breath of the Wild, it was a surreal moment for me, because I remember playing, the first game on the NES, playing Ocarina of Time on the N64. And so I remember going to my car after one of my sessions, and you just have a moment where it's like, I can't believe this, and I never want to lose that feeling. You never want to lose that sense. Because that's what it's all about. It's just identifying and connecting with whatever it is that you're working on, and on just an entirely other level.
Well, that's fantastic, man. And I mean, you know what? Congrats on the work. Congrats on Aimbo, which I think people are going to connect to, and just keep up the good work. Keep having fun, because it comes through. It shows, man. And I appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.